Hello, everybody. Welcome to Latter-day Struggles. This is your host, Valerie, and I am back as promised with a wonderful, beautiful woman, CAROL LYNN Pearson. How are you doing today?
I am doing very well, Valerie. Thank you so much. And you are doing well. You are looking great.
Thank you. I'm feeling well. It's a beautiful Sunday over here in the Midwest, and it's good to be here with you. And we are going to have, I am very excited to say, we're going to have a great conversation. And part of the reason why I know it's going to be great is because I'm really going to be giving the floor to CAROL LYNN and asking her some questions. I threw out to the people in my small groups the opportunity to, if you had anything you'd want Sister Pearson to talk about, what would that be? And I got a lot of questions. And so we are going to do our best to tackle several topics. And several of the questions actually had a lot of overlap. So hopefully many of you who have been wondering these very same kinds of things will really enjoy the conversation that we are going to be having today. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start right now with this question, CAROL LYNN. This is what one of the listeners to this podcast has said, or is asking. I'd like to know how CAROL LYNN has managed to stay in the church despite all of the hardships with the church's anti-LGBTQ plus and patriarchal rhetoric. What keeps her going and being part of the community? That's the question.
Sure. Well, I am able to stay in this community because I participate in it. And I don't just sit there and say, oh, isn't that a shame? Isn't that too bad? That's just too bad. I participate as an active person. If I were not participating, and I know that the people listening do not have the platform that I do, or have achieved the voice that I have. But you're asking about me, so I have to respond as me, who does have something of a platform and a voice. And of course, I have to be careful how I use that, because if I went around screaming all of my observations and hopes, and I would be totally ineffective. So I utilize my platform and my voice. And so far, I have not gone over a line that would have a bishop or a stake president feel that he has the obligation to do something about me. Now, for example, I had a recent first meeting with, we have a brand new bishop, a very fine young man. And as we sat down, I said, you don't really know a lot about me, but he said, no, I don't. I know certain things, but tell me about you. I said, well, I am one of your somewhat unorthodox, but highly useful members of the ward and of the church. And this is how, and I had brought with me a little set of books I had signed and given to him, signed to him and his wife, The Ghost of Eternal Polygamy, Finding Mother God, and this new one, The Love Map. And so, see, I am very upfront. I don't try to hide who I am. I'm very open with who I am. But I do not use the organized part of the church to make my statements. I either hire a theater, as I did with Mother of the Morning, that excuse me, that one woman play in which I performed 16 women throughout history in search of God the Mother. I hire a theater or I write a book.
Yes.
And I have had several bishops thank me for, quote, not bringing my issues into the chapel. Now, I'm remembering a long time ago, well, in the early 90s, when the idea was floating around and causing a lot of distress to the brethren, that there were women, and I think some men, who were actually including Heavenly Mother in public prayers. And that that led to President Hinckley making his statement that that is not appropriate. But it was during that particular time that I had a good visit with my then stake president. And I've never been, quote, called in by a stake president or called in by a bishop. But I've taken a lot of opportunities when I might happen to run into them in the foyer or actually ask for a meeting. So I had a really good long meeting with my then stake president, who incidentally had gone to see Mother Woe of the Morning 3 times, bringing high-powered guests with him because he wanted to show me off. He wanted to say, look, we can do this kind of thing in our church. Isn't that great? So as he and I were speaking in this meeting, and the subject of, praying to the Heavenly Mother came up. And I said, I really want you to understand that for decades in my private prayers, I have addressed God as both Father and Mother. But I have never done that in a church setting, and I never will. And he said, oh, I'm glad to know that, Carol Lynn. So I want to invite you to give the closing prayer at stake conference next month. So this is sort of my modus operandi. I'm not hiding anything, but I'm not pushing anything in the space that is owned by the church.
I gotcha. That makes sense. Let me ask you a follow-up question, if I may, because this has come up over and over again in some of the ongoing conversations with several of my small groups. It seems to be a little bit of a theme that people are struggling with and trying to reconcile. In the, say, for example, I guess I'm wondering, do you distinguish a difference between, say, for example, going up and saying a prayer or offering a sermon that speaks a little bit more towards your or our sort of more progressive views and values around patriarchy, Heavenly Mother, or any number of issues, right? There's that. And there's also, say, for example, if you're sitting in a Sunday school class or a priesthood meeting or a Relief Society meeting, and you're hearing things in dialogue that are just, say, for example, maybe about the atonement of Jesus Christ that really doesn't feel healthy or good or true about having to earn God's love or something like that. If you are someone not teaching necessarily, but sitting in the audience of that, do you hold your tongue because you're going to be pushing up against the majority narrative, or do you say something? What would you recommend that we do there as an audience member wanting to sort of invite other people to think differently?
I frequently just hold my tongue and listen. But if I find a way that I could, and see, like in Relief Society, I always stand up. I'm the only one that stands up, and I already sit on the front row, and I turn around, and people are really interested to know what I'm going to say now. But if I feel that I can, I simply say, there's an aspect of that subject that interests me, in that I think we could move it in this direction, or I want to add this kind of idea to what is being said here. I would never stand up or just raise my hand and say, I just don't believe what was said here. I think that's really a negative thing, and I think it's untrue. I do not do it that way. Yeah. I am really politic within a meeting. But I would never want to embarrass the Relief Society president or the bishop. I would never want to embarrass a teacher by being confrontive. If I had something to say, I would always find a reasonable, kind way to say. Now, okay, so for example, the concept of Heavenly Mother is really not brought up officially in our meetings really much. And, we have had, so I'm thinking of a particular thing, it's, some years ago, that when the Priesthood and Relief Society had the same manual, and all of the language was masculine. And, one of the first lesson was about the nature of God. And of course, everything was masculine, masculine, masculine. And I raised my hand and I said, the sisters, I feel called again on this subject to remind us that we are bound by our history, we're bound by our vocabulary, but let us not forget that the complete presence of God includes our father and our mother. And we have every right to hold our mother in the conversation about God. Mm. So I say something like that.
Thank you, Carol. And what I'm hearing or what I'm feeling throughout this topic that you're really describing can be summed up in one word. You show so much dignity and grace. And so I think that's maybe what we as listeners and learners from Sister Pearson can take from this is it's nuanced. There's a way to do this, and it's usually loving, kind, gentle, judicious, timely, not every time. Mm-hmm. And it's something that we really try to follow the promptings of the Holy Spirit in doing these things so that they help people understand and help move the narrative forward and not bring up anything that will bring defensiveness to those around us.
Right. And I do try to, well, see, I'm in it for the long haul. I'm not in it to make some big explosion and that's the end of me. I intend for the long haul, but I do not shy away from things. And I'm trying to remember what I said. The Sunday that what's called the policy came out, forbidding baptism to children of gay couples and all of that, which was a very, to many of us, kind of a shocking and a very damaging thing. And that is really one of the points in recent history that can be pointed at, where a lot of people said, okay, I'm done now. Yep. I'm done. I remember, see, I don't get up in testimony really often. But when I do not bear an expected, wrote by the book kind of testimony. I bear testimony to one particular principle of the gospel. And I remember I got up on the Sunday after that policy came out. And I wish I could remember exactly what I said, but it was something like that I'm bearing testimony to the principle of the gospel that is founded on absolute love. And somehow I brought this around to the fact that policies come and policies go. But what we have in front of us is a demand and a requirement that we love everyone. And I don't know that I even pointed out anything about that. I mean, everybody knew what I was talking about.
Of course.
Everybody knew.
Yes.
But I framed that in such a way that I minimized it. And I said, the reality is that we love everyone, no matter what. And I may have said something more specific about that. I don't recall, but I said it carefully.
Yes.
Now, on that subject, a bishop of maybe 2 bishops ago spoke to me after church one day, and he said, Carol Lynn, the people in our ward many of the people in our ward don't know your story. And I want you to tell your story about your marriage. I'm in a sacrament meeting talk. And I said, well, Bishop, I understand that we don't, really talk about, we don't say the word homosexual in the sacrament meeting or whatever.
Right.
But tell me how much you want me to, he said, I want you to do the whole thing. You use all the right words. Oh, wow. And you tell your full story, because your story is important and we need to know that.
That's really beautiful.
Yeah. So that's, see, here's how I managed to be in the church. And maybe I mentioned this on our prior conversation, I don't recall. But I do it because I am a Libra. I am the scales. And I hold out my hands like the scales, saying, on the one hand, there's this. On the other hand, there's that. And so I never, just, so I really am always trying to stay in balance. Yes. However, it does not prevent me from speaking strongly when I feel the setting is appropriate and when I must. And I consider that when I write a book, this is my territory. And for example, the book, The Ghost of Eternal Polygamy, boy, did I ever pull off a miracle in the balance of that. And it was not a calculated, dishonest balance.
Right.
It was very true. In that book, and as I explained to one of my stake presidency men and my former bishop, how I was going to handle that, I said, you're going to be surprised. I'm going to write about this book, and I'm going to say that in my strong belief that Joseph made an error, that it was the largest error he ever made to bring in polygamy, and that God never participated in that. I'm going to say that. And at the same time, I'm going to make you love Joseph. And he said, you can't do that. And I did it. And then later he agreed that I had done it, because I said all these true, excellent, wonderful things about Brother Joseph. And I also said strongly that I believe this was his worst error and is terrible to be remembered for your worst error. And I will hope that that error can be addressed at some point by those in power who followed Brother Joseph.
That's beautiful, Carolyn. Thank you for that. And actually, you're talking, this Libra idea of holding the scales and balancing the two is huge, and actually brings up another question that you've already started to answer, but I'm going to go ahead and ask it explicitly because I think it might be nice to hear your detailed explanation of this. One of the people in my small groups and a listener to the podcast says, how does Sister Pearson reconcile Joseph Smith's practice of secret polygamy from Emma and not throw out everything else that he did and taught?
Well, I don't know if the word reconcile is even what I want to address here, because I don't reconcile it. Yeah. I say, well, it's okay because da, 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 da. To me, that's reconciliation, to make it be okay somehow. Yeah. It was not okay. Polygamy was not okay then. His deceiving Emma was definitely not okay. And the ongoing presence of the threat of eternal polygamy that is in the mind of every Mormon woman, whether she acknowledges it or not, that also is not okay. I have no wish, and I make no attempt to reconcile what I think is wrong.
Yes.
So I just acknowledge that I do not believe this, and then I just let it be.
Would you go so far as to say, and this is maybe I can walk you through my process of how I've made sense of this, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. To me, I like to think about how we have to realize that every human being is deeply complex, and that prophets notwithstanding, and that a prophet has moments of prophethood, but they also have moments when they are not prophets. And so if we have a complex kind of way of thinking about every human being,
sure,
then it makes it easier. Is that, I mean, I know I'm very much brushing over a very large topic, but can you speak into that? Like, do you feel, or maybe just, it sounds like you've already included in this, what you've already said, you're feeling that there are many things that you believe that the prophet Joseph Smith did that were in fact prophetic in nature, even while also acknowledging that there were many, devastating things that were not prophetic in nature. Is that kind of the balance you're holding as a Libra?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Sounds good. Okay. Let's move on.
Now, I just remembered, I should add here that policy the limited,
Yeah.
everything about LGBT couples and all.
Yeah.
Several years later, that was withdrawn.
Right. 3.5, I believe it was.
And of course, we were happy to see that withdrawn. But, the leaders seem to have a framework where they can make something, give something in a package of revelatory gift.
Yeah.
And then if they choose to change that, sort of a different revelatory thing. And those of us who were watching, and sometimes I'm cynical. I am not always, this lovely balanced person.
Right.
I am sometimes cynical.
Yeah.
And I think, well, you should have done that in the first place.
Sure.
Here you're trying to clean up the mess 3 years later. But nevertheless, that ties into what you said, that sometimes those who call themselves prophets establish and speak wonderful things, and sometimes they make big errors.
Yes. Yes, a lot of these questions actually hover around the very thing that you're talking about, not specific to the policy, but they hover around that issue, which I think is one of the largest pain points that we're experiencing at large as a church. So I'm going to just stay with that topic and ask you a couple of other quick questions about that. Okay, she said one of the questioners asks this. She says this, or he says this. A question I would ask is how does CAROL Lynn balance her thoughts on LGBTQ issues and rights with her love and belief in Heavenly Mother? If she believes that same genders should be married eternally, but also believes in a Heavenly Mother that is equal to Heavenly Father and that they are co-creators, then does she feel that there needs to be a male and female to create? Or is it any combo to create? I would love to hear her thoughts on this. And she also mentions that she knows that this does not probably mean necessarily male-female intercourse in the eternities, but she's just trying to reconcile if we believe in a Heavenly Mother that does have the feeling of it looking like a heterosexual eternity.
Sure, yeah. And I have read, conversations along this line of discussion.
Yeah.
That that what we're bringing in Heavenly Mother limits the kind. This is something that is just so large that I think there's certainly no way that my brain can say, oh well, hey, the answer is this.
Yeah.
And I doubt that anybody else can really do that. There are some things we just need to leave, I think, as a generality and say, I don't know how the specifics work in this. I do not know. But for myself, what I do know is that if we were to, and when we are able to comprehend the real essence of this word that we call God, this creative force that brought everything and everyone that created life, when we can see that, we will know that it is a perfect balance of what we call today male and female. Now, for us to draw that on the blackboard or make a real little excellent, specifically organized paragraph with the words that we currently have about how all that works, I don't know. That is a huge reservoir to swim in, and we are just little tiny fish just trying to make our way to. So on things like that, I don't know that it's essential to say, okay, we've got to pin that down. We've got to pin that down.
Yeah.
I am happy to just say the in the fullest picture I can imagine of the creation that brought us here, there is perfect balance of femaleness and maleness. And that's all I know. And right now, that's all I need to know.
I love it. And actually, you're bringing to mind for me a moment in time where this clicked, and I offer you the credit for it because I was literally shopping one day with earpods in my ears, listening to an episode of In Her Image, the podcast. and you were a guest and you read one of your poems, and I am not going to remember the name of it, but it was a poem. You probably, I hope you can remember the name, but I will reference it because I'll go back and research it, where you have the poem is about, it's in your Finding Mother God book, and it's where a woman goes to the forest and looks in the water.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
And at the very end of the
Yeah.
poem, it says something about, are you he or are you she? And you said, well, you said, but in the poem, the reflection says, in the heavens, mathematics are different, or something like that.
Oh, yeah. I think I said, we do arithmetic differently here.
Yes. And I remember stopping my cart and just pausing and taking that in and realizing that, oh, how little we know about gender and sexuality. And yet, I
Yeah.
think of a way to really think, for me, the way that I think about it is the constructs of gender and sexuality that we understand and that we even witness and participate in here in this earth life has got to be very, very small and different
Right.
than
Yeah.
in the eternities.
Of
And
course.
so for
Yeah.
us to try to sort of like, what am I trying to say? For us to sort of take what we understand now and pretend like we can even begin to understand what it'll look like in the heavens is overly simplistic and, quite frankly, kind of foolish.
Right. Yeah. And I'm remembering, so many conversations that my dear queer husband Gerald and I had in the times that we were just trying so hard to make our marriage work and all of this. And I would say something like, Gerald, don't it is so obvious. There is male and there is female, and those two need to be together. And he said, Blossom, which he always called me, Blossom, I understand that, but you must understand that with some of us, the male and the female are together inside of us.
Yes.
And that wasn't entirely satisfactory to me then, and nor is it now. But I understand that what he described is the true experience in maybe using different words for it. But there are people who experience this whole thing of sexuality and identification differently than how I do.
Of course.
And somehow we just have to have a large enough space to trust one another. See, what we don't trust in our church today, we do not trust
Right.
the authentic experience and belief of our LGBTQ sisters and brothers.
You're right.
We insist that you're being deceived. We've got to move you over here where we are. But there's we cannot. I mean, we used to have flannel boards and dry everything with chalk on the blackboard, and that is so not useful in many of these subjects. So we have to say, okay, I don't get it logically, but what does my heart tell me to do about this? How do I feel Christ would ask me to respond in this situation?
Yes.
And always, of course, it is with love and with an attempt to real understanding.
Beautiful. Beautiful. That brings me to another question. This questioner asks, what would she say to a man or a woman who has no interest in finding a connection with their Heavenly Mother? How would she describe the importance of a Heavenly Mother to someone who has never even thought about her before and does not think she is important?
Well, I certainly wouldn't give that person a lecture. I wouldn't.
Yeah.
But I think really there would be few people who would at least be puzzled, if they happened upon a conversation around this subject.
Mhm.
I think there are a few people who would say, "Oh, that's such nonsense." But there are people who are clearly very, very satisfied with the language and the history that we have here. And if I were in conversation with one, I would just probably say, to to me, it seems really a very important goal to move toward, to establish that femaleness is just as divine as maleness. And there's a simple little quote that sometimes I just, it's easy to just say, as Catholic theologian Mary Daly said, if God is male, the male is God.
Yes.
And that has influenced humanity for
Everything.
centuries. But I think people of good faith would be, very willing to just nod their head as you are doing right now. That, well, yeah, that does make sense. Yeah.
I think what this I don't know this for a fact because I read you the question word for word, but I also know that one of the things that comes up frequently in these conversations that I have several times a week with good, earnest people really trying to work themselves through a lot of this faith expansion is that they find themselves confronting either family members or partners. And the idea of the introduction of a feminine divine seems to be for some people that are more orthodox in nature, very, very threatening almost, or like
Yeah.
it pushes up against sort of the loyalties of
Yeah.
their upbringing.
I understand. I understand that.
And so
And
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, see, we are in the middle of a paradigm shift.
Yes.
And in that little poem in that book, Paradigm Shift, I say, it's how many centuries since the Pope acknowledged that Galileo was right, that the way that the sun and the earth move around is not the way that we have thought, and that right now we are dealing with another one, because we have had the patriarchy has given us this picture that maleness is the center of the universe.
Yes.
And that femaleness orbits around it. And to question that is a heretical thing to do. I understand that. But just like Galileo, we cannot say, oh, well, excuse me, if that causes you trouble, I erase everything I've said about that.
Right.
No, we have to find a way to acknowledge that this kind of upsets the apple cart. It kind of does. Nevertheless, it's essential.
Yes.
It is absolutely essential that we redesign, not redesign what the heavens actually are. We must redesign our concept of the heavens. And, as we study to bring back history and discover all of the places where the femaleness of God was erased, if we do it in a way that leads us to comprehend that we are just at one moment in history. And I like to sometimes, what I say, rise up in my spiritual helicopter and look down and just see the now that we are experiencing, and go back and look at history. And it is of no value to condemn history and say, why didn't you get it better sooner? History will just do its own thing. But every moment in history was created by the people who live in that moment as they inherit what history has brought to them. And then, if they are capable, if they are wise and forward-looking, and have the guts and the heart to be able to say, here's what we have inherited, but I feel there's something missing here. That's the only way that anything has been changed in history, to accept what came before and then say, but I feel to add this to it, this invention, this piece of artwork, this philosophical concept, this religious, to me, certainty that, to me, it's so obvious that whatever divine source brought us all here encompasses and experiences and portrays the duality of maleness and femaleness that we are. Anything else is absurd.
Yes.
But see, I have studied this long enough and thought about it enough decades that I'm just excited that we in the present moment have an opportunity not to condemn and to discard whatever happened in the past, but to say, boy, that was incomplete, wasn't it? Or boy, that really took us on I mean, this thing that took us on a road to the witch burnings,
Yeah.
that was a bad turn in the road. And we have to make sure that we are on a safer road. And we have to be gracious enough, perhaps, but we have to be strong enough. Even if it turns us into one of the witches that are burned at the stake center, which we're not, we have seen that happen.
Yeah, that's
We have
great.
seen
Great
that
play
happen.
on words. Great play on words,
And
Carolyn.
yeah, and I have been fortunate that I have not been burned at the stake center. And it is good, by the way, to keep a sense of humor about all of this, really.
Yeah. Yeah. It's big stuff, right? These are big conversations.
Right. But we have to understand that the future is waiting to be carved out. And it's not just waiting for the brethren in Salt Lake to carve out the future of the church community that we live in. But that future is also very open, and I believe excited to receive all of the gifts that the women have to give in the particular subjects that we've been talking about.
Yes.
And and many men have the same gift to say, we have got to have a new concept of the heavens, and we have to have a religious system that is beyond patriarchy. We have to move into partnership, and to be able to view the heavens as a perfect, holy partnership. However this looks like, if we could have a telescope, but however we know how it feels like when we feel right about it. At least I do. Mm-hmm. I feel right about the idea of a God only as a wholeness of our experience and our need to find the divine in ourselves by finding ourselves as women, by finding the divine in our godly parents.
Let me just follow up with a couple thoughts on that. And this is also we're having a wonderful conversation, because what you're describing and how you're answering is leading me to yet another question.
Okay.
So the question is this: I have in these small groups, it's men and women. And a lot of the experience of the men that I have come to know, that I've been privileged to work directly with, have found deep grief when they realize that for many, many years, they have blindly been complicit in the patriarchal structures on the ground, in their home, in their family, in their callings at church. And I mean, to the extent that more than once, actually several times, we have sat in these small community settings on the screen, and men have wept because of how much grief they feel when their eyes have been opened and they realize that they are part of the problem. Okay, so that's my preface to the question. The question is, comes from a gentleman who says, aside from some of the low-hanging easy answers, like being more intentional with our language and speaking up for women, how can we men in the church help advance dismantling religious and other kinds of patriarchy?
Yes, isn't that wonderful? And I want, first of all, to just respond to the picture you drew of men weeping about what they acknowledge now was not correct behavior back there. Yes, there is some grief to be felt in that, but I want to say, by dang, that deserves celebration. That man, or those men who feel so strongly in regret about things they may have done, that moment is to be celebrated, because those are the only moments in history where something changes. And so I honor those men, and I say, no more. My wish is that no more do you grieve about that. I want you to celebrate the journey that you have been on that has brought you to this place. Celebrate that you now see with better eyes. You see with a broader mind. You see with a more whole spirit. That is only to be celebrated. So now what to do with that celebration? Well, the field is white already for harvest, gentlemen. And each one of you will do it differently, as you should. But you should, and I think will, if you do it mindfully, you will cultivate your own way. Now we're speaking perhaps mostly to the men, the couples who are wanting to remain in the church.
Yes.
You have the right, and I think the obligation, to speak up, and not to do it with a big bludgeon, but to say, you know, I've been learning some things, and I need to speak out today in priesthood meeting and say that, you know, we as men have missed the boat in terms of a number of things, and we need to work toward partnership. And I think that's that we need to try to get rid of this concept and this concept. And in our idea of what God looks like and feels like, in our idea of what a partnership would feel like with you, with me and my wife, and you and yours, I'm here to say that we have not gotten it right in history. And we have the opportunity now. And the women are leading us in this, and that is to be celebrated. We need to get on the bandwagon now that the women are offering us by expressing to us the grief, that the pain that they have been through in this paradigm that we call patriarchy. Patriarchy is not useful. And right now, we are the ones who are called upon to shift patriarchy into partnership. And that is the concept that I would wish that these wonderful, brilliant men, and I want to emphasize again, waste none of your time in regret and in grief. Take that energy and use it in constructive experience and teaching to the brethren around you. Do it without condemning them, but say there's a better way. And this is it. We need to be partners with our wives in every way, which, by the way, does not mean a man and a woman does the same things. That does not mean it at all. It means that equal valuing. I love a quote by a British writer, Virginia Woolf. Men and women are different. What needs to be made equal is the value placed on those differences. Now, at this moment in society in general, and certainly in our church, I'm daring to say, we do not place equal valuing on the things that females do as opposed to things that male do. We don't. As much as we'd like to say that we do, we absolutely don't. So these enlightened men now have the opportunity to be in the forefront of this pioneering venture. And I understand that, you know, why a lot of men and women who get to this point just say, you know, I feel to leave this religious community. I just don't feel I want to stay here. And I honor that choice. But for those who choose to stay here, you have this marvelous opportunity to be a pioneer in a brand new, brilliant way. And I would hope that many of your listeners would say, yeah, that is who I want to be. I want to be a part of this church, and I want to be a leader in insisting that we move from the paradigm of patriarchy into the paradigm of partnership. That's it.
That's really, really beautiful. And I think they could even, well, a couple things that I love about what you said is to take that moment of grief and recognize that that is the moment where they begin to have the most wonderful capacity to influence and to use this new knowledge to influence those around them. That's a turning point. So that's really beautiful. And then something else that I really loved that you said that I hadn't really thought about before is, as women become enlightened, because of patriarchy, we might not have as strong of a voice. But when men become enlightened in a patriarchal system, they have the voice and the power of the patriarchy.
Right.
And so they can use
And
that voice as men to help enlighten those around them in
absolutely.
yeah.
And it is not fair, but it is true what you just said. And so yes, we so need men's voices to speak out.
Yes.
And when men and women do it together and have a little bit, see, our voices don't sound the same. A man's voice sounds like this usually, a woman's voice sounds like this. We need them both.
Yes.
We do. But you're so right that the missing quantity in all of this is men. So when a good man wakes up and says, hey, I'm really with you, that is a wonderful thing.
It's very powerful, very powerful. And oh yeah, I love it. I love it. I want to turn our time over for the last few minutes of our conversation to, there were a couple of questions about your process and your, of your, let me, of your writing, your creating works. One of the individuals, hold on, let me get to my other piece of paper here, said this, I'd love to know about CAROL Lynn's creative process. How does she approach writing all these books that she's written?
Well, first of all, the concept has to approach me. And see, for many of these books that we've been talking about now, Finding Mother God, The Ghost of Eternal Polygamy, those concepts have been living with me for decades. And as they have been within me, and as I have lived in the patriarchal church that we have, but seeing it through eyes that are now honed by partnership.
Right.
The insistence that that's the promised land over there. I have just become excited. You know, when a writer finds a subject that has not been done to death, it's a very exciting thing. And so, you know, for example, when I decided to write The Ghost of Eternal Polygamy, this had been living with me for decades, really. And you know, people have written about, you know, the harms of polygamy and various things, and some of our scholarly journals have given us various points of view about the history of it all. But nobody had really given us something significant about what damage does this do today to the hearts of women, especially, and to the marriages that we have now. And so I said, okay, nobody's done it. I'm the one. This subject maybe has been waiting for me to come along, at least in our particular community. And so I just jumped in, and it was very, very exciting. I didn't know exactly how it was going to look when I jumped in, but you know, after I did that survey, getting 8,000 responses from women, men, active, inactive, and read their stories, I just knew it was supposed to be their stories combined with my personal story, combined with history. And so it was easy from then on out. I mean, as far as writing goes, it was easy to say, this is the path that this book takes, and these are the things that will be addressed. That was not hard. That was easy. And it was easy to get up in the morning because to work on this book, because I was so in love with it, because I knew I was doing something correct. I knew it was going to be useful to lots and lots of people. So getting the concept and then figuring out precisely the right vessel to offer it in, that's just something that has to be figured out in the mind and the heart, because you can have a great concept and not have a good bowl to put it in.
Right.
So both of those things that have to be worked out, but they're very personal and private to a writer as to what feels correct. And so that's and when I wrote Finding Mother God, that concept just blew up in my face again. I thought I had done everything I had wanted to do with, Mother Will of the Morning. But then I heard this terrible talk. Never mind, we won't take the time to get into it. But I thought, wow, I got to do this now. I got to. So I that brought tears to me the next day after I continued to think about it. And I was so angry. I was angry. I grabbed my notebook and I wrote the first poem. And then the next day I wrote 2 poems. And soon that anger had transformed into excitement because I knew I was doing something really useful. So I don't know if that answers exactly what was asked there, but that's the best I can do right now.
No, I think it's a beautiful answer. What I picked up from what you're describing is a couple of things. Number one is that you feel that there's something that calls to you that you feel deep and personal about. And sometimes this lingers for maybe even years and years. And then it's almost like the muse takes over and it's time to start putting pen to paper and writing it down. And it's a call. It's a part of what makes you who you are, where you're able to transmute sometimes the anger or the suffering into something that is growth and healing for not only yourself, but of course for the others that are privileged enough to read from you. Let me ask you a follow-up question to that, this is my own question. In order for you to have the eyes to see the struggle and the pain and the ability to be where you are, where you see the complexities around, I'm thinking really what we've talked a lot about is issues of gender, sexuality, patriarchy, power, issues of this nature. I know for one thing that much of what you have, who you have developed into is a product of your own life stories. This is my question. I'm sorry, that was a very long preface to the question. The second question is this: can you talk a little bit about how did you become, or are you continuing to become the enlightened woman that you are, where you can see all of these things? Because some people can't see them. They don't have the eyes to see the problems, much less the courage to speak them.
Well, for one who doesn't have the eyes to see the problem, you are on your own path. And I'm not saying you should be on a different path. You should be more, perhaps, more inquisitive, more wondering what other people are experiencing, more open to new ideas. Maybe if you are really feel closed down, but if you are that closed down, you're not going to be aware of it. So just go about your life and be happy and say that, okay, Jesus told me to love everybody. Just go ahead and do that. Don't worry about things that you're not called to worry about.
Right. And I think what you're helping me understand is I think I'm actually speaking in reference to if somebody's listening to you and me talk, they are asking the hard questions. They're bravely pushing against, some old ideas. And yet we are all called to also be surrounded by people that sometimes seemingly live in a whole other dimension and don't have the curiosity, don't have those eyes to see, which I think is where you were speaking into. If that is the case, we love and we show patience and kindness. And I think it's probably the most challenging to people with partners and intimate others that refuse to see and don't want to be pressured to grow. And of course, nobody can be pressured to grow. It's just very painful, I think, when you have an intimate relationship or family where it's almost like they're living in 2 different dimensions.
Right. And I guess I would say that the 2 operative words here are to be kind and to be brave at the same time.
Wow.
Because it would be a mistake to say, oh, my husband wants me to put away all my feminist books and da 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 da. You cannot let that happen. Well, in the first place, that's not a kind thing for him to do.
Right.
But I just want to urge everybody to be a little bit braver than they have been in the past. And as you talked about, couples having differences over all of this. There's a fine podcast that maybe many of you know about it called Marriage on a Tightrope that is geared to LDS couples who are, one has left the church or totally disbelieves, and another one is very strong, wants to stay in the church. You're not alone this is a very common thing. And there have been some wonderful conversations about this on that, and I think other podcasts. But we have to understand that we are in a place in history that is a pivotal kind of place. Now, you see, the whole, all these issues of LGBTQ things in the last, say, 40 years have spun around so dramatically. I don't think anybody could have predicted that back then. You know, from the Stonewall event up until now, who would have thought that gay marriage would be an actual fact?
Wow.
That was just a point of history that just went wild and created something that was a tremendous movement forward.
Yes.
Not so for what we call women's issues. Well, maybe somewhat so. There have been a lot of good progress for women in this and this and this. And I'm not happy to understand that in colleges the majority of these students there are women. That does not make me happy. I'm glad that women have moved to the forefront in a lot of ways, but that's not a good balance.
Right.
So we're in a really weird place right now, but we're speaking about the church community, particularly right now. Mm-hmm. And we are in a place where it does frighten a lot of people that women are rocking the boat. Mm-hmm. And I would hope that in a good marriage, one that has a lot of things going for it, that this would not be the deal breaker. Right. And maybe if it's the case that the man is the one saying, this is very uncomfortable for me, we're going to not go there. And the woman says, well, this is really, really important to me, and I am going to go there. They have to figure out, is this something that we can do and maintain our good love for one another, and you be willing to give some space for me, and I be willing to maybe not be quite as outspoken as I really want to be. Can we figure out a way to do that? In which case, that would be the good choice. Right. But if the choice is one that, let's say it's the woman who needs to involve herself more and be a part of the change, and the husband says absolutely not, it's up to them to figure out, can this marriage be saved? Should it be saved? And I think most marriages should be saved. With many of them, there's an issue. In my marriage, there was an issue that was so large that we had to end the marriage and remain friends. So I cannot, and nobody can say what each marriage should do. I only want to say to everybody, be kind, but be brave. If you feel that you're a part of the change that is having to happen, you cannot give that up, or you will not feel comfortable within who you are. You won't. You will feel minimized, and that is not okay. So we have to do this odd dance, to find a new way to dance together, or find a kind way to move apart and dance elsewhere.
Wow, beautifully said. Beautifully said. As we close up today, Carol Lynn, I have one last question. This is my own question. I am wondering if you could share with us, what are some of the most significant books you've ever read that have helped form and shape you as an individual?
Oh, golly. Oh, that is so hard, and I'm not going to do a good job of this.
I know I didn't give you any forewarning on this one, so
perhaps on the subject that we're talking about, reading historical books like Joseph Campbell, and a book like Gerda Lerner called The Creation of Patriarchy. Yep. And then reading Fascinating Womanhood, and how troubled that made me. All of these various books, but um, my spiritual journey has been aided by books such as A Course in Miracles.
Okay. I'm writing all these down. So everyone listening, I will
And
have these.
that is the channeled work
Okay.
that I believe is high quality.
A Course in Miracles. Okay.
I love reading now, and I do read possibly daily some Eckhart Tolle,
Sure.
and all of the great novels back in history. Gone with the Wind, and all of those that look at their period of time
Mm.
and feel not in harmony with their period of time, and all of the the books within our church that are question raising books. I told you I was going to give a bad answer to that, and
It's
I
okay.
had.
No, you
I
haven't.
have.
I've written a number of them down, and I will, if you think of some more offline before this airs, you and I can be back in touch and you can share a couple more
Sure.
recommendations, but that's several. So, okay, final question before we sign off, because we both have other plans today to forward in our lives. I'm wondering if you could just share a little bit about how you could get into the hands of as many people as possible your brand new book, The Love Map. Tell them just a little bit about it and tell people how they can find you and
sure. Yes. This brand new little book, The Love Map, subtitle, Saving Your Love Relationship and Incidentally Saving the World. I was thinking of that, of course, as I was expressing how I would hope that this couple would work together to combine the kingdom of the third, which in this book is the challenge, the hero, the heroine of the book. It's a book of fiction, but it's true, and the journey that she goes on is one that moves us up what some people call the chakra system, which I call the various kingdoms. But she is stuck in the third, which is abdomen, which is my will over your will, my energy over yours. But we're all called to move out of that space of power and control up into the heart, which is love. And I would love to give you an entire review of that book, but we don't have time to do that. But yes, you can get a signed copy of the book, as well as The Ghost of Eternal Polygamy and Finding Mother God, all at my website, just my name.com, CarolLynnPearson.com. And at that website too, if people like hearing about me, hearing from me, if people say, oh, I'd like to have a conversation with her, I do offer a professional hour of a conversation if you wanted to sign up for that, to talk about faith transitions or anger about this or that, or whatever it is that you want to talk to me about that you think I might have something interesting to offer. So that's offered on the website as well. So anyway, we all, what we're experiencing now, I hope, is a great big united order. We bring what we have and we take what we need. And that should happen in all these conversations, and listening to one another and saying, oh, you have brought this. I need that. And I'm willing to give you this. This is my perspective. We need to do that more and more. And we can do that in the promised land of partnership far better than we can do it in this historical temporary paradigm of patriarchy. Wow. So that's my hope for us today, and may we all go forward and have a blessed day, and so it is. Amen and amen.
Okay, that was a wonderful wrap up to a beautiful week celebrating the life and the ministry and the work and the example and the mentorship of Carol Lynn Pearson, everybody. Thank you so much.
Wait, I want to just PS here. Yeah. There's a wonderful book that was very influential to me, by Riane Eisler. The Chalice and the Blade.
The Chalice.
The Chalice and the Blade. and Riane has done so much amazing work on partnership. So I would advise, if somebody wants to get one book that I personally have been influenced by and recommend, get The Chalice and the Blade.
Well, I've never even heard of that. So that is fantastic. Okay. I'm
Okay.
going to put all of her recommendations of authors and books in the show notes of this podcast. And as she mentioned, please go to her website and buy her out of all of her books. Christmas is coming. Christmas is coming, and this is a wonderful time to order some books and throw them in some stockings, or buy yourself some books to read and enjoy over the Christmas holidays with you and your loved ones around. So thank you all for being here. If you're interested in joining one of my small groups, you can please do so, or call, what am I saying? Call me. Email me at info@valeriehamaker.com, or you can catch me and give me your information on Instagram at Latter-day Struggles Podcast. Please keep your positive ratings and reviews coming, because as you do this and as you share with other people, people can see more organically from social media that what we're trying to do is help people become more healthy individuals. And that is what we're after, is helping people become whole and healthy in their relationship around the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It's been so wonderful to be with you, Carol Lynn, and we will see you all next time. Bye-bye. Okay. Once again, that was lovely.
Okay.
All right.
I'm sorry, I was taken aback by the book thing. My mind just kind of.
Well, I didn't give you any fair warning, and it was just a personal question, because I know I have been profoundly formed by the books I've read. I don't know how people don't read books. Just, to me, it's like, that is who I am, is the books that I read, and it's how I've integrated my worldview. And so I was just genuinely curious on my own behalf. Like, what have you read that has shaped you as to be the woman that you are? So yeah, so no worries, but that was perfect. It was beautiful. Do you feel good about that?
Okay. Hey, you handle that anyway. If you wanted to take that Chalice the Blade thing and stick it back in the books, you can.
Yep, I can do that. I can.
Anything you want to do on
yeah,
that.
no, it's beautiful.
I'm not worried. I mentioned Fascinating Womanhood.
Yeah.
Do women today even know about that book?
I think I'm familiar. Isn't it? Tell me if I'm wrong. I think I have not read it, but isn't that an older book that was talking about all of the things? It was celebrating all sorts of terrible representations.
It was by a Mormon woman who's, in response to what was going on in the 70s of all of the turmoil. This is what a woman should be. She should, very, very feminine, very weepy, very, oh, you dear big brute of a man. I'm so, you protect me so well.
I remember. I haven't read it, but
it was a big point of conversation way back then.
Okay.
So,
okay.
Well, golly, Valerie. So now you are saturated with CAROL LYNN Pearson.
No, the whole week. The whole week. And I'm going to record some of your poems in the next few minutes, and I'm going to just push them out. I would love to see them buy a whole bunch of your new book. And I bet you they're going to want to buy this Finding Other God book too, because I've chosen just a handful of my favorites that I'm going to read several each day.
Great.
So, okay. Yeah, I'm on your team. I haven't done it yet, but I would love to get you connected with Steve Pinecker. You've gotten an email, an introductory email. He's a gentleman that lives out on the East Coast, and he runs a very successful YouTube channel all about books. You should be on his short list of people, because he has a very large following. He's a Protestant man, and he's kind of seen as the Switzerland of Mormonhood, because he's not LDS. He's somebody that takes all of the authors and thoughts and feelings and histories and people.
Yes, he did respond to my.
Okay, are you guys?
I'm going to send him a copy of the love map. Okay. And I added, if you would like me to send you a copy of The Ghost of Eternal Polygamy, I would do that too. I haven't heard back from him on that one. So I might just send. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Sounds good. All right.
So Valerie, thank you for doing all of that, for making those connections.
No, there's the more people we can have in contact with your work. I mean, my goodness, you've helped me so much. If I can just help you in helping more people, my goodness, I will do that. And I have every intention. I'm going to sign up for one of your $80 things one of these days, because I've already thought about it.
Well, Hey, you move forward and have a wonderful Sabbath day.
You too. Okay.
And we will speak again sometime.
Okay. All right. Have a
Okay,
great day.
yeah.
Take care.
Many blessings to you.
You too. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.